January this year. Up to now, they do not have identity cards. I want to request the PS also to liaise with our counterpart to ensure that the students are able to get the IDs. Allow me to ask the second one, Honorable Speaker.
That first one she already covered in her explanation. Go on.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I want the CS to assure Kenyans how sustainable is this funding program. Are all the students who are going to apply going to benefit, or there will be some rejections? And if you are going to reject some, because you've already alluded to the fact that the data is inaccurate, so how are you going, what parameters are you going to use to reject others? Are all Kenyans going to apply, going to get? And finally, when is the deadline for application for the period that you have extended? Thank you.
Patient members, everybody will have an opportunity, even if we sit up to 2. Go on, PS.
Honorable Speaker, the first question from Honorable Odhiambo was on whether we have a working appeal system. I'd like to confirm that yes, there's a working appeal system, and we invite all the students who have issues to visit the portal www.hef.co.ke. The next question was, when do we factor the changing circumstances? Ideally, at the end of every semester. So for example, right now we will capture the data, but if before release the funding. And so before we release the funding for the second semester, if a student's circumstances have changed, they can write to us or approach us through the appeals.
Sorry, Speaker, I was actually not speaking about a person who is already admitted and their circumstances change. Because when you are factoring in, you are going to ask about which schools they went to. Is there a question that asks that even though you went to this school, your parents have since died, so that it is not taken into account? I have live cases like that.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to confirm that yes, we capture information, current information on the family structure, and that would cover that component. Then the issue about the circumstances of rural constituencies and connectivity, we work with the Huduma centers, which are quite well spread across the country. We also encourage students to visit any nearby university or institution to be supported to connect and apply for this funding. And we have been working with universities to spread this message, working together with local leaders. Dishonesty in data, is it an issue of dishonesty or a reality of this country? I'm persuaded by the evidence, Honorable Speaker, that we have a serious problem of integrity, and it is the responsibility of all of us, leaders and families, and especially the educational institutions, to advance moral fiber through value-based education. Honorable Speaker, I will invite Geoffrey Monari, the CEO Universities Fund, to respond to the question by Honorable Baer.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My name is Geoffrey Monari, the CEO of Universities Fund. I'll tackle the question by Honorable Mbaya on the issue of poverty from Kilifi County. Indeed, we do consider poverty from across the country. We even go further to look at each location. We have gotten data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, where they have classified the poverty index per location. So that is what is considered, and there are marks that are given. In fact, the marks are 2%. We allocate 2 percentage points for this allocation.
Did you listen to his question?
Yes.
He asked a very simple question. Why is Kilifi classified as one of the poorest counties in Kenya, having its students who have applied, all or majority of them placed in band 4 and 5? That was the question.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I'll go now to
I
that.
discourage you from stories. Just answer the question.
Okay.
You can see how many hands are waiting.
Many of the students who may have been classified in these bands of 4 and 5 depends on the information that they give us. We highly depend on the information that is given by the students, and once we receive this information, we now are able to classify them. However, they have a chance to give us further information if they are not classified in the correct band. Thank you.
Yes. They have not finished answering all of them.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Passaris wanted to find out how we deal with the Form 4 students who do not have their certificates. I would like to clarify that the certificate is not a requirement for applying for funding, only the KCSE index number, ID or birth certificate. Honorable Emase wanted to find out what we do with the students who do not have IDs. I think, again, we clarified their alternative identification documents, like the KCSE certificate, and how the deadline for this new funding application process, once the students are at the universities, it is 31st of December, after which we shall start then revamping the tool as we prepare for the next cycle of admissions. And how sustainable is the funding for this program? Honorable Speaker, we realize that the problems afflicting universities require massive funding. And so the only way that we can address this is by sharing the burden of financing education between present and future generations. And that is the households, the government, and the students through the loans. For this method is sustainable because the students who receive scholarships, when they graduate, that money is then availed for the students who would be joining with a little addition. However, the sustainability really lies with heavy funding of the Higher Education Loans Board. And for this to be sustained, we are already working on designing a social bond, adopting what is applicable in Malaysia, where the Higher Education Loans Board does not depend on exchequer at all, but they run that bond. They have angel investors and other investors who then provide the capitation required for the system to be sustained through loans. Thank you.
Let's take another 4. Let's start with Mama Dagoretti. Mama, sio baba. Eh? Okay, let me list the 4, then sit Elachi. After Elachi, Osoro. After Osoro, Shimba. After Shimba,
It's me now.
I'll give Garissa Town. You will all have a chance. Just be patient. So ask one question each, no speeches.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is just a question that during this admission that starts in September, what is required of the student and parent as they enter the university? And what happened to the NEMIS number? Why can't we just use this NEMIS number as students go from their Form 4s to university? What is it for?
Honorable Speaker, I need clarity on the disbursement of what the PS called a boom, which I really don't think it's a boom, it's a loan, on the payment structure of that amount. When is this student, okay, first on the disbursement of that amount, and on what category? Is it disbursed in the entire amount as it looks like, or I mean, as it stated, 60,000 on the band 1 or on budgets? Number 2, when is this student expected to repay back this particular loan? Alongside that, Honorable Speaker, they said, the PS has told us that the new funding model will not, the students under the new funding model will not benefit from the HELP bursaries. Then where is this money classified? Under what funding model is it classified? Because it is not on HELP. Because one, you've talked about it being, because that's what she said, it's not on HELP. And then there is this loan for maintenance, I mean for upkeep. Then finally, Honorable Speaker, finally, this last one, I still do not understand how gender falls under the means, the means of testing instrument, Honorable Speaker. Like being female or male, does it warrant one, does it, or transgender? You know, I'm being reminded by, I don't know whether she's, sorry, I'm being, how does that amount, how can you use gender to define means for a student, or to calculate, or to, I mean, to quantify one's means in terms of amount? Is it that male gender is of, they are richer, or the other gender is richer or poorer? It really doesn't make sense, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Shimba. One question, Baba. Just press and it will come on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mine is to remind the ministry that we have a number of cases of suicide in our colleges. Our parents are also becoming victims of these social diseases because of the pressures that they experience as a result of educating our children. Why don't we bring all these forces together, where we have the women rep giving bursaries, the county government giving bursaries, the MP giving bursaries? Why don't we bring this fund as one, so that education becomes free in this country, so that we do not have this problem of judging who is poor and who is not poor in this country, where there is no real measurement to decide on the same. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we have never had any secondary school being taken to court or being auctioned because of debts. Why are they very much keen on keeping our retaining certificates for children who have actually completed, and they need these certificates for whatever reason, of course, that is there? Why don't we have these things, you know, given a directive from your ministry? Because I remember the president during 2017, 2022, he gave a directive that all secondary schools should never actually retain any certificate because of school fees. And this is still not yet done. What is your ministry doing, Madam PS?
Garissa. Those with their mics on, switch off.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Madam PS, for this clarity. One, I wanted to find out, because most of this amount of 30%, 40% goes to help loans. And I have an issue as a constituency, or as a people in Garissa County or Muslim communities, the issue of loan, which has an interest in terms of learning. So if the Help Loans Board can look at it and see to it that maybe those who, Muslims who profess the Muslim faith, Islamic faith, can be considered for a Sharia-compliant loans to access these facilities. Because as of now, from Garissa University, none of them applies for these loans. Secondly, there will be a disconnect between help and university fund. Why can't we have, as a ministry or as a country, one entity that is dealing with all this, so that we have one office that you can go to and apply for the loan and apply for university funding? Otherwise,
Thank
we
you.
have two organizations that are carrying out both these issues. Thank you.
PS, respond to those four. We'll do another.
Honorable Speaker, Geoffrey Monari will respond to the question by Honorable Elachi, and Zuki will respond to the question by Honorable Soro. I will, however, take on the question asked by Honorable Soro on gender. And Honorable Speaker, I want to say that research has indicated that female-headed households are considerably more needy than the male-headed households. Thank you. And then the question...
You know, it's not scientific, but go on.
It's true. The question by...
There are more male delinquents in our society than female delinquents. Go on, go on.
The question by Honorable Shimba about retaining certificates for secondary school leavers. Allow me, Honorable Speaker, to engage my colleague P.S. Bello to then implement or enforce that directive. The issue about amalgamating resources from bursaries offered by the Women Rapes and the national government CDF, we welcome that collaboration, and indeed some of the members in this House are already collaborating with the Higher Education Loans Board to pull these resources together. And we are praying that increasingly many more members will come on board. My colleagues will then respond.
P.S., before your colleagues come on,
yes,
that issue raised by the member for Changamwe actually is the elephant in the room. All these resources come from the same source, the diminishing public purse. The MCA is giving bursary, the woman rep is giving bursary, the MP is giving bursary, the governor is giving bursary, the ministry is giving bursary, help is dispersing money, universities funds is giving money. Just hold on, members. We have private providers, banks are giving bursaries and scholarships. If you are able, and it's you to generate policy, if you can generate policy, this House will be more than happy to turn it into law so that we can amalgamate and consolidate these funds, and they'll go a long way in providing free universal education for our children. Because what happens is, even as you talk of band one, where the offer is very generous to the student, the same parents will go to the MCA, go to the MP, go to the women rep, go to the governor, end up with everybody collecting money for the same course. If you can realign this, our problem will be solved overnight.
Honorable Speaker, we welcome that proposal and we are under advisement. We shall work on the relevant policy, and we hope that then the legal frameworks that apply can be addressed. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next round.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
They have not finished answering.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'll tackle the issue of Honorable Elachi. On the issue of reporting, the students will be required to go with the household income. However, where a family does not have the household income, the universities have accepted, through advisement from the Cabinet Secretary and the PS, that they will accept these students in the universities when they report. And this has already been effected by the universities that have already reported. You also recommended that we use NEMIS. This is a good recommendation. The only challenge is that students in private institutions, even up to the schools in the slum areas, are not registered in NEMIS. They are registered when they register for exams through the NEC. Therefore, that is where the challenge will be. However, the government is putting in place the KEMI system, which will register all students from ECD all the way to the university, and we will have a new data system across the country. The other question I would like to tackle is the issue of the merger. There is already a proposal by the Presidential Working Party, which I believe should be either on the way to Parliament to merge these institutions so that the Higher Education Loans Board, the Universities Fund, will be merged together so that they can be able to consolidate all these funds and have synergies for to support the education sector. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, Mr. Nzuki will answer the questions that were asked by Honorable Soro and Honorable Major Deko.
Yes, Nzuki.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and honorable members of Parliament. The question on the disbursement of upkeep is done twice in a year because it is modeled on the university calendar. So each semester, then a student will get the part of the stipend. So it is 50%, 50%. That is for the 2 semesters. I think I'm spot on that. On the matter of bursaries, bursaries are given to the students being financed under the DUC model, which was already clarified by the PS. So the bursary are aligned to the old financing model. On the matter of the students are expected to repay the loans once they have gone through their schooling. And in fact, after school, they are given a grace period of 1 year, meaning for starters, then it will be an average, the minimum period to start repayment is at 5 years. But for those doing medicine, of course, progressively, after they finish the course, they added 1 year, so that is a grace period. And that is an item, of course, we continue to discuss and engage with our clients. On the matter of brothers and sisters of Muslim faith, I know part of our resource mobilization strategy, we've been trying to get a Sharia-compliant product in cognizance of the challenges faced. And in fact, in the current proposals for the bills that will be tabled in this parliament, that Sharia-compliant product is part of the conversation. So yes, they will be catered for. Thank you.
4.
This side, Speaker, please.
Naika, number 1.
Nakuru, please. Mr. Speaker, Nakuru County.
Mama Lamu, number 2.
Joro, please. Speaker, Joro constituency. Speaker,
I'll give to
Speaker, your
Clive,
front,
number 3.
your front part, Speaker.
And I'll give
Speaker, now you are in favor.
I'll give Mama Embu, number 4.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker.
Everybody will have a chance. Just be patient.
Thank you.
1 question each.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I'm not clear on one issue. We have been talking about classifications of poverty. But there are, in my constituency right now, there's a lot of arambes taking place for children who have been called to the university. But some cannot even afford to do arambes, and they have been called. I want to know if there's a system whereby the very poor who live with their grandmothers and grandfathers can enter the university, and the issue of payment is done when they have entered. That is my question.
Asante, Bwana Spika. Mwanzo ningependa kufafanua si hii marginalization iko, tusikatae. Wale wengi watachukua, lakini na sisi tusipokonywe uhuru wa kuzungumza. Kwa sababu Bwana Spika, sahihi ninavyokuambia, mumeona kwa media watoto youth 108 wameenda Al-Shabaab na wameuawa. Mimi leo nakwambia hapa 60 wametoka Lamu East. Na haya mambo kutukataza sisi kuwa marginalized ndio inafanya mambo hayo. Na Lamu ikiwa unsafe, Kenya is not safe. Hilo mwataka mulijue. Sio tukitamka tu marginalization, watu wanataka kutugandamiza tunyamaze. Hasa swali langu ni hili kwa PS. Sijui kama una mipango gani.
Nani unyamaze mama? Wewe uliza swali tu.
Mr. Speaker, Mbaya amezungumza marginalization, akasimama mbunge asiseme hivyo. Kwa nini asiseme hivyo na ndio iliyoko? Lakini kwengine kuna shida zaidi.
Endelea kuuliza swali.
Ndio nasema nyinyi mnaweza mkachukua kila kitu, lakini uhuru wetu wa kuzungumza msituatishe. Swali langu ni hili kwa PS. Speaker, please protect me kwa hao walio wengi.
You are fully protected. Order, go on, Rueda.
Lakini shida zingine ni nyingi. Speaker nasema hivi kwa PS. Kwetu mwanzo PS amesema huduma center, lakini nataka ufikirie huduma center kama ya Lamu ni Lamu Town. Mtu akiunga kutoka Kiunga paka Lamu Town paka atumie 8,200. Area zile zenye unique challenges umezifikiria vipi? Kama sahihi Mkokoni hakuna hata network. Wale wamefikiriwa vipi? Usipange kitu ya jumuiya Kenya nzima. Kuna wengine wana unique challenges. Sisi kama Lamu East nataka kujua tuko brand gani ndio nujue kama mna ukweli au ni mambo tu mnajifanyia. Asante.
Yes, Clive. Yes, Elijah. What's the point of order? Use the mic. Just press, it will come on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and sorry for that. I was just saying, when we talk about education, which is an equalizer, and all of us here, members of parliament who have CDF equal, then it is very unfortunate when we start looking at our constituencies, regardless of what we are saying.
Point of order. Point of order.
You must understand.
Clive.
Point of order.
You have it.
Clive.
And it can work.
No, point of order. CDF is not equal.
Order.
Who is giving equal? We are Lamu East, you are not getting equal.
Oh, Mama Rueda. I didn't rule you out of order, so sit down. You are in order. Go on, Clive.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Ask you one question.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to know from the PS if they have been able to merge the application of this together. If they have been able to merge the funding application together with the university placement application, COOPS. The reason I'm asking that, Honorable Speaker, is if this was done at the point of application for COOPS and placement, it means by February, all these issues we are handling today could have been tackled and the students could have had enough time for appeal process, whereby even them as a ministry can be able to use grassroots leaders like DCCs and ACCs for appeal program. Have they been able to merge that?
Thank you.
Secondly, Honorable Speaker, the banding. The numbers that have gone to band 4 and 5 are people earning over 120,000. And that's why they've put majority of the students. Yes, we understand that there is a lot of maybe fake information that came in. But even the statistics out there, do they justify to tell us that such many people earn over 120,000 shillings in Kenya?
Yes, double N.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mine is one question and a suggestion. And I want to ask the PS what are the modalities or parameters
Sergeant, can you give the PS
used for categorizing students to the different brands, and how fair and effective is it in ensuring that most deserving students are selected for the correct brand? And the other suggestion, Honorable Speaker, to the PS is that there was a directive that if any student has a problem with the certificate because of the school balance, that they should not be denied their certificates. But the PS has categorically said that for the current students attending the universities, they don't need these certificates. But we still know that we have other students who are not necessarily going to the universities and they deserve to have their certificates. Can the ministry, through the PS who is here, allow us as honorable members to do the data, collect the data of all the students whose certificates are outstanding in the schools, in the secondary schools, and they have never been issued to them because of the fee balances that they owe the schools? Thank you very much.
PS, can you answer those four?
Honorable Speaker, I will invite Monari to respond to the questions by Honorable Naika and Honorable Roida. Then I'll come in with a question by Honorable Clive.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. On the issue of allowing students who, by Honorable Naika, allowing students who depend on Harambes to report to schools, I want to affirm that all the universities and the chair of the Vice Chancellor's committee is here, that the students will be allowed to report to the universities, and they'll find staff from the university's fund and help to guide them on how to apply for the application. The other thing I want to emphasize
Pana Monari, you know the problem we have?
Yes.
You are whispering very good things to MPs here, but out there things are different. Can you from here as an order, as a ministry, issue a public communication for children to go to school, their money can follow them? Because what you are saying here and what the vice chancellors are doing out there is totally different.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm sure the PS will be able to respond to that. But one thing I want to emphasize on, we have also noted that the students who have been on Harambee are shy to tick on the form that they were on Harambee. Some of them have not been able to do that. So what we are saying is that let them just give us that evidence.
No. Mr. Speaker, let me clarify my point. I didn't say, I said there are some students who are called. They are not even able to do Harambee. So they don't have Harambee. They call and nobody comes. So can they report to university? Until...
He has said they will. Now go and tell them to report. Go on.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me go to the next question by Honorable Obo on access to application. I want to confirm that, number one, we understand that there are students who cannot access these facilities because of where they come from. And that is why we have given a chance for these students to report to universities, and we have facilitated our staff to be there to assist these students. So these students will be given a chance to apply while in campus, and then they can be able to submit their applications, and then we can be able to process those applications. Thank you very much.
Next. Who is answering?
Mr. Speaker, please.
No.
You know we have to be clear. Are they reporting and be sent back home, or they are reporting to continue with the education?
Yes, PS. Go on to the next.
Honorable Speaker, the questions by Honorable Clive on the merging of the placement body, that is Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Board and Universities Fund and Higher Education Loans Board. I'd like to confirm that we have already started working on the initial design. However, this has not been implemented immediately because these platforms are being used actively for students to apply for funds and also to process their appeals. However, it is our commitment that during the next funding cycle, these platforms will be fully merged and the data will be processed simultaneously. Then there was another question on why this banding is skewed towards band 4 and 5. Honorable Speaker, without reliable data on income, it is very difficult for us to use income precisely to predict for the time being. However, I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that I have data here. I have data here from the National Examination Council for the results of the students who are now joining university. And according to this data, 84.8% of the students who scored C+ and above, 84.8% of the students who scored C+ and above studied in national schools. So we can see that actually this admission is skewed towards national schools. Honorable Speaker, in these national schools, the students were paying 53,000 minimum. We also know that there are other levies. Some of these students also studied in private schools. So it may be very unfortunate, but it is indeed the reality of our circumstances that the students from sub-county schools, the students from county schools and extra county school are disproportionately represented in our universities. And so when we use the secondary school that a student went to as an indicator, and the students went to national schools, and they have not demonstrated that they were funded through Harambes, or they had a guardian or bursaries, then it becomes very difficult for us not to discriminate, not to use that variable as a discriminator. However, this is what then opens the opportunity for appeal, so that with more information, we can then correctly classify these students. And this will also include visiting some sampled students in their homes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Owen.
My point of order is this, Honorable Speaker. The principle should be everybody is poor unless proved rich. Not the other way. They are saying everybody is rich until they prove that he is poor. This is Kenya. We know the income levels. Very few people go to 120,000. Very few people, 50, 60. Honorable Speaker, so they need to change the principle. Then we will save Kenyan youth.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, Minority Whip. Just press the button and it will come on. Look for the next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to appeal to the ministry that their presumption is actually extremely defective. Even as we speak now, I have a student from my constituency who's just finished in Alliance with a balance of 94,000 Kenya shillings because it's CDF that has paid for her from Form 1 to Form 4. Most of our students from our constituencies are actually being paid for by CDF. That's why they are in those national schools. So if you can actually, and I raised that issue earlier, and I would request them to relook at it. The issue the schools of a school somebody attended is very misleading. Because most of us are in WhatsApp group fundraising, parents sacrifice to even do those fundraisers so that kids can go to good school for a better life, not that they can afford it. So can you please relook, because it's very misleading, the issue of those schools.
What you probably should do before we go to the next round, I thought I had the Monari say they have opened a desk at each university. Upon reporting, if the data you put in, because the assessment is based on self-generated data. So if you put in data based on erroneous facts or misapprehension of facts or total misunderstanding, then advise students in your constituencies that upon reporting the university, they go to that desk, and I hope that desk is there, and explain that I went to a national school in Alliance or Kamsinga, not because I was rich, but because I passed well at standard 8 or 7, standard 8, and the bursaries from the CDF paid my fees all through. So my parents have nothing. But you are assessing me because I went to a national school where we pay so much, which was not my money, was not my parents' money, was from a public kitty. So also advise students when they report to go to those desks and make those clarifications so that the data available on them is then adjusted to the reality. Yes, let's take another 4. Yes. Let me start with Dawood.
Mr. Speaker, please. Mr. Speaker, front face of you.
Order, honorable members, no soliciting. No soliciting. I know all of you. Oundo, Pareo,
Honestly.
and
Mr.
the member right at the back, is that member for Uriri? Those are 4. We'll still take more.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the PS. The PS has talked about boom. The boom she has talked about, is it per year or is it per month or what? What is the
that has already been answered.
No,
that they give twice per year.
Equal amounts or the same amount?
Yes.
Okay.
First semester, 1/2. Second semester, the
Okay.
other half.
Fine. Let me ask my question now. That was not the question, no. Mr. Speaker, going to university, it's not just tuition fees. I had a student who was going from Meru, and he got very good marks and all that. He had to pay for the whole year accommodation fees before he even is enrolled into the university. Mr. Monari has said they should go. What Honorable Naika has asked, if he goes there, will he be sent back? Yes, he will be sent back because accommodation fees has to be paid up front, the whole amount. So if it is going to be like that, then how are the students going to study? If they do not have the money, accommodation fees may be 50 to 100,000.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just have 2 questions, specifically the first one, the timelines from the date of appeal and the timeline when the decision on what if there's been any change in the banding, how long does it take? Second, Honorable Speaker, the greatest problem in this funding model are the vice chancellors. They come and mislead the PS and the cabinet secretary, but when they go back to the universities, they give the registrars completely contradictory instructions. For example, I just want to pick up what he has been saying. You have to pay the accommodation fee in advance, yet there is this boom that is coming they're supposed to use. I've seen the chair of the university chancellors as here. Can he give a commitment to this country today, here, that they're not going to contradict whatever decisions they make at the Ministry of Education? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Agnes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And my question, the first question is that I want the PS to clarify to us of the deadline for the application. Because as I heard her speak, she said that 31st was the deadline, And then she said that these students can continue with their application in the schools. So I'm wondering, how will these students go to school, yet they are supposed to pay for the houses where they will stay? Then again, I want to remind them that the constituencies we come from are constituencies where there is no electricity and where there is no network. So at the moment as I was coming yesterday, there were so many students in town trying to struggle to apply for the bursaries. So did they really consider these students who are poor and who come from those areas where there is no network and there is no electricity?
Thank you. Oriri, member for Oriri. Oriri. So go on.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. First, allow me to commend your comments about this kind of funding we have. Because when I was doing my maths here, I realized that all the funding we are talking about can constitute around 80% coming from the government, the universities, of their need. So by declaring universities and colleges free, we'll need only to top 20% and we make it free. And Madam PS, if you ask me, I would suggest that we work towards making university and colleges funding free. And if you can make a proposal to Parliament to consider funding universities and colleges, I think we'll do a better service to the Republic. My last concern, which I want to bring as a suggestion to you, when you look at Kenya as we are talking today, we are one country with a lot of inequalities. You talk about my constituency, you go to Turkana and other areas. There are students who completed their secondary education and expected to go to the university and cannot access network. They cannot apply for all what we are talking about here. They don't have the information we are discussing here today. And if you want to treat these people equally, we must provide equal opportunities and allow them to report to the colleges, and anything which is required of them, let them do at the college level. But let us not expect them to be equal with others and do the same at the family level. It's not possible. Some parents are too ignorant of whatever we are talking about here. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, what's the point of order?
I think the ministry is living in maybe in space. Because let them know that in this country or in any African setup, it is the poor that produce more children because they do not have any TV, they do not have other entertainment. Their only entertainment is to produce children. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, if you want to equate students from national schools, having been perhaps maybe well off, but let me say this, we even try in our local schools to produce students who can go there. Just yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I was sending hostel fee for my student in Laikipia University because he says, I cannot be admitted. I have to buy them suitcases. I've got to buy them everything. So there is inequality in the first place where teachers are posted. You find schools like Alliance High School, they have all the teachers they require and even more. But in our schools, they do not even have teachers. Yet we even perform well, Mr. Speaker. So let them come out of their, their imagination that it is only schools at national level that perform and perhaps that are actually well off. Let them actually come out, out of that dream. Otherwise, these inequalities are killing us, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
You hijacked that point of order to say something unrelated. Now, PS, we've taken the 4. I'll still give you, members.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I would like to request the Vice Chancellor, Professor Daniel Mugendi, the Chair of all Vice Chancellors, to respond to the issue raised by Honorable Wundo, and the Vice Chancellor for Laikipia University, Professor Rotich, to respond to the issue that was raised by Honorable Ondege on the making university education free. Monari here will respond to the issue raised by Honorable Daud on accommodation fees, and Zuki will respond to the question raised by Honorable Shimba on the family tree and equality. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Tell us, are you, Vice Chancellor, the biggest problem in this setup? That's what. Yes, KJ, what's your point of order?
The bigger question was on communication, Mr. Speaker. You did ask where the disconnect is between the ministry and the universities.
Your mic is off. Use the next mic.
Mr. Speaker, now that the opportunity has been given to a Vice Chancellor, maybe this would be the opportunity to answer a question that you had asked to Madam PS, but was glossed over. Mr. Speaker, you had asked, is there a disconnect between what the ministry is saying and what the universities are doing? And even on that, Mr. Speaker, the channels of communication, is it all being left to be communicated by the president, where the minister, the PS, the HELB, and all other people who attend to these issues in the Ministry of Education are mute to a point where you have had to call a Kamukunji to explain it to members of parliament. These members of parliament are good consumers of media. They are very well versed with what is happening on the ground, but they still do not understand this funding model, Mr. Speaker, meaning that the communication that we are being given here today is not trickling down to the ground. We are being told that they are using a multi-channel approach, which includes, I don't know, digital media, social media, and other medias. Mr. Speaker, the point is that all that has been said prior to today has not communicated to the publics in the way that it should. So now, could the Vice Chancellor tell us, are the Vice Chancellors sabotaging the communication? Are they part of the problem, or are they part of the solution that we are seeking, Mr. Speaker? Thank you very much. And this is in terms with the flow of communication. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Vice Chancellor? Who do you want to inform?
Mr. Speaker, I would want to inform my brother, Honorable KJ.
He's off the floor.
It's a very important point, Mr. Speaker.
Go ahead.
Last week on Saturday, the good professor of Embu. Yes. No.
Mr. Speaker.
Can I, Mr. Speaker?
I hope you are not attempting to answer for him.
No. I'm just informing that Professor Mugendi, I had an occasion in my constituency where a team from Embu University came to the function to communicate to the function which I had about the university funding model. Mr. Speaker, I'm not trying to protect Professor Mugendi in any way.
Order. Take your seat. Order. Take your seat, please. Take your seat.
I do not want to be informed.
Order.
Find him out of order.
Honorable Ruku. Order. Honorable Ruku, when I last checked, you are not a Vice Chancellor. Vice Chancellor, can you respond to those concerns?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker and Honorable members. I have two issues that I've been asked to respond on. The first one was on the issue of if the students come to our universities and they have not been able to pay the household component, whether we allow them to continue standing. And I want to answer in the affirmative, yes. And we have said that there is no student who should be turned away because they have not been able to pay the full household component. Every university has a mechanism that we have put in place to ensure that students will be able to pay the household component as they study. And many of us, the arrangements that are in place is that If they're able to keep paying something small, then they continue doing it, so that by the time we get to the end of the semester and we are about to do the exam, then they should have finished paying. So I want to say that we have communicated very clearly. We have communicated very clearly that to the VCs that they shouldn't be turning away the students.
Yes, Wabili Mureo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's a point of order, is it?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I think it is wrong for Professor to come to this house and claim that there is proper communication. The elephant in the room, Mr. Speaker, is communication. We have so many forums of communication.
Point of information.
We look up to them, Mr. Speaker, as the epitome of knowledge in terms of communication. They have those courses in their degrees. Mr. Speaker, a simple communication through the X has not been expressed by these institutions. That's why we are here right now today, Mr. Speaker, carrying so many cards for Harambes because of communication. That's number one, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker, there is a trust deficit on the system. We have not heard to what extent does this data is being unbundled through the system and how much is a human intervention. That's why you have a problem that people who are supposed to be in bundle 1, they are now in bundle 4 and 5. Mr. Speaker, I think before the Chancellor's communication, I think you need to address the clear forums of communication, because that's why we are here. We are not able to communicate to our people on the ground on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So, Vice Chancellor, what you are telling the members of parliament here is that no student will be turned away on reporting day 1 for the simple reason that they have not been able to marshal accommodation fees, but they can pay along the way. Is that what you are telling the House?
Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of accommodation is different because, as you know, accommodation is linked from registration, and actually most of the accommodation providers are private people. But in terms of fees, that's what I'm saying, the household contribution, which we've been talking about, either the 5% in band 1 or the 10% in band 2 or the 20% in band 3, that is what I'm talking about, because that's the fees that comes to the university. There is no student who should be chased away because they have not paid household component.
Use the word will, not shall.
Let them answer the other questions.
Yes.
Point of
They have
information.
only responded to Oundo's question. There was one from Dawood, from Pareyo, and from the member for Nyatike.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go on.
Yes, Honorable Mr. Speaker, sir. The other question was on the issue of communication and what we are doing as Vice Chancellors to ensure that we are communicating this message to our stakeholders. And I want to say that, yes, the message is a process. And that's why we are here today talking about the student-centered model or the new funding model. I'm sure members of parliament have even seen our peers in media houses. They have seen some of our officers in these state agencies, in our state agencies, and also some of our vice chancellors in media houses communicating about this new funding model. I want to say it's a process. It is something that is ongoing. What we have agreed as vice chancellors is that we are going to adopt constituencies that are in the universities where, the counties where our universities are located. And we've already liaised with some of you MPs, and I think members of parliament, honorable members of parliament, and I'm sure you know it. And we have said that we want to be accompanying you when you have your public barazas, when we are meeting with your stakeholders, so that we can be able to talk about the new funding model. And I'm sure it is on that breath that Honorable Ruto was trying to clarify that last week in a function that he was involved in, I did send a team to be able to do that. The other issue, Mr. Speaker, sir, is that also as the Vice Chancellor...
Yes, hold on, Wamushomba, what is
Mr. Speaker,
agitating you?
Mr. Speaker, I'm quite agitated because it looks like we are wasting our time. We've been here since morning wanting to get clarity, serious information from people who are expected to disseminate information. If this is the style the Honorable Professor is using to disseminate information to us, what about the students who have no patience with him? We are wasting our time, Mr. Speaker. I think it is high time we acknowledge that this system is quite a mess. We must go back to the drawing board. We are wasting the life and the future of our children, and these people who are entrusted with information dissemination should be fired with immediate effect because they are doing a lot of nothing to our country.
Yes, Professor. Professor, let's hear the professor first.
Professor has finished.
McClap, what is the problem?
Mr. Speaker, we are not interested in those stories of the professor. Mr. Speaker, what is very important to communicate to the country? Solution, if we want to sort out Kenya, today and now, Mr. Speaker, make a pronouncement to the Cabinet Secretary or the President to make a pronouncement to the children of Kenya that they all report to the university and do the necessary documentation. The documentation can be done in the university, the accommodation can be sorted out, Mr. Speaker. Two, Mr. Speaker, make the ministry, the minister, or the President of the Republic of Kenya, make a pronouncement to the people of Kenya, the children of Kenya, that all certificates of students joining to university be released unconditionally, because those certificates, national examination, the government paid for examination fee in Kenya. And therefore, they have no relationship with payment arrears of fees in Kenya, Mr. Speaker. They were all paid in Kenya. Those two pronouncements, Mr. Speaker, sorts out Kenya immediately.
Professor, can you finish up? Order, let's hear the professor. Hold on, KJ. You raised an issue, let him respond. That's why he's on his feet. Let him respond.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker and members. I think we have communicated that it's a process. Honorable Member KJ, you raised the issue of communication, and that is what I'm addressing. And I'm saying communication is a process. All of you have even heard His Excellency the President talk about the new funding model, but I think it's a process, and that's we are engaging in that process, and that's why I was saying, as Vice Chancellors, we have a strategy, because we have said we will start with our students, our staff members, our senates, our unions, and then we also go to the populations using the MCAs, the members of parliament, so that then we can be able to get this information to the population. Thank you.
Point of order, Speaker. Point of order, Speaker.
Honorable.
Let's finish those four. Order, honorable members. The good Vice Chancellor has said that they will try. It's sufficient. Whether it's sufficient or not, it is you to judge. But what we have told the PS and her team, that even with this very good model, the deficiency has been communication. It is now that we are hearing that even children who don't have money should go and report. Those with distorted data should go and correct at the universities. This is something that we didn't need a Kamkunji to be told if it was communicated out there. So PS and your team, when you go up there, upscale your level of communication. And Vice Chancellor, you know there are some constituencies like Turkana North that have no university. So if you are going to limit yourself to going to the county where the university is domiciled, Then you disadvantage constituencies that don't have universities. Find a way, and this parliament will assist you. That's why I brought you here. We have the chairman of education here. If you have any message that requires to go to the public nationally, pass it on to the chairman of the committee. I'll give him free airtime in parliament to communicate to the public so that they can be able to get what you are doing. Secondly, you have taxpayers' money. You employ people to do communication in your ministries. Ask them to do this so that the public can get to know. Because the problem we're having is just lack of adequate or no communication at all.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, here the other answers first.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Molo, hold your horses.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Allow me to also respond to the question that was raised by Honorable Dawood regarding the accommodation fees and to say that some universities run a needy kitty, and such universities are supporting students with challenges in accommodation. They are also prioritizing them for student accommodation within the hostels. Allow me, Honorable Speaker, to invite Monari to respond to the question raised by Honorable Parey and
Point of order, Speaker. Point of order, Speaker.
Yes, Dawood.
PS has just talked about needy students being given accommodation, but we are saying that they should be enrolled and accommodated so that they are not sent. There is no point in enrolling a student going to university and he doesn't have anywhere to sleep. Will he sleep on the streets?
Honorable Speaker, Mr. Nzuki will respond to the question on family structure by Honorable Shimba, and then the VC for Laikipia University, Honorable Professor Rotich, will respond to...
Before that, Honorable, Madam PS, why can't you consider, because if this boom that comes slightly later than the admission is part of the money the students will use for accommodation, yes, why can't you direct the vice chancellors to liaise with accommodation providers, yes, and give them an undertaking that we will pay this boom at this particular time, let in the students. You can even have a way of paying some of the boom for accommodation directly to the providers so that the children are not thrown out of school. Why don't you have that kind of arrangement?
Honorable Speaker, I am under your advice, and we shall work on this proposal with the Vice Chancellors, on this directive with the Vice Chancellors. I will...
Just hold on. Bwana Vice Chancellor, will you consider telling, you are the chairman, right, yes, of the Vice Chancellors? We would advise that you communicate with your colleagues, because the boom you are going to pay will go towards accommodation. You already said that it's private enterprise that provides accommodation, but the money will still come from the boom. Can you organize to allow students to report, have the accommodation available, on the undertaking from the university that boom is coming and accommodation will be paid so that education goes on uninterrupted?
Okay. Obliged, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
So,
Mr. Speaker, there's a challenge. No, it is important, Mr. Speaker. You know, it's important we say the truth. The truth of the matter is that this boom goes directly to the student account. Now, the five chancellors, they must find a way of enforcing the students once they receive this money in their personal account, that they are able to transmit that money in a way, I don't know, how to the five chancellors where they can arrange the arrangement.
Point of order, Chair.
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Ruto,
on the same point.
Honorable members, what we have suggested, Honorable Ruku, is that they find a mechanism of giving a promissory note, to the landlords, that these students will get money from us. And when they get, they will pay. If they don't pay, they will be locked out.
Mr. Speaker. 1 minute, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Article 27, Mr. Speaker, Article 27 of our Constitution talks about equality and freedom from discrimination.
Who is being discriminated?
The student.
How?
The money still goes to the student. I'm not in the point of the money for now. My point is the entire model, or the financing model which we are trying to panel beat here, Mr. Speaker, the managers, the university managers, have ensured that students from the very remote areas, very remote constituencies are discriminated. In my constituency, Mr. Speaker, there are sections where there is no mobile network. In my constituency, Mr. Speaker, there are students with no mobile phone or computers which can be used or internet which can be used to make these applications. What I'm trying to say, Mr. Speaker, is that...
Point of order. Mr. Speaker, point of order.
We want a way forward, Mr. Speaker. We want
Point
a
of
way
order,
forward.
Mr.
We
Speaker.
came here
Mr.
for
Speaker,
Kamukuji
what
because
I'm
we
trying
want
to
a
say-
way forward.
Mr. Speaker, can I be protected? Can I be protected, Mr. Speaker?
No, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, surely.
Way forward. We want a way forward.
We have been doing so well until the member from Bere North arrived.
Mike, please.
We've been doing so well until the member from Bere North arrived. First, by attempting to defend vice chancellors, and secondly, interjecting to say things that were not relevant to what we are discussing. PS, can you go on and finish? After the PS, I'll take one round, then we close.
Honorable Speaker, I will invite Mr. Monari to respond to the two questions, one by Honorable Pare and the other by Honorable Ruku, and Zuki to respond to the question by Honorable Shimba, and the VC for Laikipia, Professor Rotich, to respond to the issue of can we make university education free? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. On the issue of appeals, which was asked by Honorable Undo, from the date of application, we want to promise that within 3 weeks, we shall be able to process the appeals, and 3 weeks from the date of application. So if a student applies from today, we shall process within 3 weeks. So we urge these students to apply as soon as possible so that we can process them and they can get their money. On the issue of lack of network and electricity, that is why we have given a commitment that these students can be able to report to the universities where they can be able to access the facilities to apply. No student will be left behind, and we ensure that the students, and we have staff there who can be able to guide these students from far-flung areas so that all the students can be able to apply. And that is an assurance that we want to give the honorable members. On the issue of the prolonged allowance to apply until December 31st, this is in the spirit of ensuring that no student is left behind also, because it will allow students who did not have a chance to apply or who did not have the necessary documentation to apply a chance to be able to apply within reasonable time. Thank you.
The next.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. On the matter of the MTI being able to accommodate the family, different family sizes and the various components that constitutes a family, of course, the family structure parameter is a big one which considers single parenthood orphans, children, and of course the size of the family is considered. How does it play out? Through the NEMIS and universities and TVET ecosystem, we are able to establish the family size of where the applicant is coming in terms of those people who are engaged in the education sector, and then we derive from the income that has been declared, we get a per capita. So we divide the income that has been declared by the number of persons to get the per capita, which of course will not then disadvantage guys from large families. Nevertheless, we have said those children who are coming from disadvantaged families and they have been supported through school, the platform allows them to say that they were supported through school, and there is evidence by attachment of sponsorship letters or recommendation by the chiefs, and that puts them to an affirmative action straight away in terms of 100% support. Thank you.
Okay, we'll...
Honorable Speaker, the VC.
Yes.
The Vice Chancellor was to respond to the issue of free university education.
Yes, Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Laikipia, you say?
Thank you. My name is Joseph Ruto, the Vice Chancellor, Laikipia University. Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the matter of whether the university education should be free, I report or I respond that this will be a policy issue which this parliament and the government needs to decide and make a decision on it. And I think with all the monies from CDF, Women Rep, and all the other supports which go to students, if they can be consolidated, then the university and colleges, including TVET, can be made free. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Now let's take another round. Member for Gichugu, then followed by Rachel Nyamai, followed by Rindikiri, followed by Karole Omondi, followed by Mama Pareo. Wewe umeuliza tayari? You can't have a second bite. Followed by Hold. Ngoja.
Followed by Joro.
Followed by McClap.
Speaker, Uton is out.
McClap.
Speaker is at fault.
And then member for Aldai. Okay, let's start with us. Kishugu, one question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Kishumu.
I think matters of education are matters of national importance, and that is why this particular issue of education was left at the national level.
No preambles, just ask the question.
Yes. There's what we call in government collective responsibility. This is just one department under the ministry. Why is the department, which is handled by the PS before the House today, not involving the other departments? The other department under the ministry is devolved at the constituency level, and they can be able to use that channel for communication through the CS, and also this House is also represented by members of parliament in 290 constituencies. Why are they not using the available channels that even as members of parliament use when we are also giving bursaries? I think...
Order, Mshomba. Take your seat, Mama. Okay, you will not be harassed when I'm here.
Mr. Speaker.
Take your seat. Order, honorable members. You will not be harassed. Take your seat. Take your seat. Take your seat. Let's not have any side shows to such an important issue.
Mr. Speaker, the point I'm making is that why is the department not using the available channels of collective responsibility in making that information available at the lowest level? Mr. Speaker,
you've made your point.
No, there's one point, Mr. Speaker. From the data that has been given by the PS, about 125,000 students will be joining university. That's correct? If I divide by 290 constituencies, that is only about 440 students per constituency. It is very easy to call all those students at one center and establish their needs, and also be able to have, to apportion the money according to the needs of those children, instead of using scientific methods of mean testing instruments, which are scientific and they are not real. The reality is on the ground. Let all the students report. We do it at the constituency level, and we'll be able to give them the data of the need of the students.
Rachel Nyamai.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to...
Muguka.
I think Mira. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, because the resolutions that you have made this morning have already given us solutions. And I want to give you an example of this message that I have. There is an issue of the woman you met on Saturday, who has a balance in Ikanga Girls of 56,320. Are you going to clear this, or the student should go to university? I have responded, the student should go direct to university. So I would like to thank you very much for that. Mr. Speaker, this is my question. That I have students who have been wrongly banded. I know them, I know their parents, and they are in band 1 and 2. But they have been given band 4, band 3, 4, and 5. And I would like to ask the PS, who I agree that she has really tried to answer these questions, but I would like to ask, is it possible to compare the data that you are receiving with the data from the secondary school? Not comparing with the secondary school that child went to, but the data from that secondary school, because the children are known, and link it with what the Honorable Member for Kishugu has said. Or also link it to data from the ground, from provincial administration, because these children are known from the Ministry of Interior. Will be able to get data now that there are universities that are not telling the truth. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, allow me, Mr. Speaker, that Parliament is given information that is factual. The statements are factual. Now, I can tell you and prove to you that some of this information you have given here is not correct. And we have said, and I agree with what Honorable Kishuma said, there is no information on the ground. I have and I engaged Madam PS, and you need to confirm, because I went to the ministry at the county level, I went to the sub-county at the constituency level. What you have written here is wrong. Please correct that impression that you have created. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, you know, you need to convince us that this mean testing is correct. I would have expected you to come to Parliament with the data tabulated per region, per criteria that you have used to justify that the mean testing that you are using is correct. Now, without that, you cannot claim that a student are following by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is wrong.
You've made your point. Carolo Mondi.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I'll try to be very brief. Let me start by saying that this issue is not new to Kenya. I think one of the countries with the best funding model for university education is Canada. And it is very highly automated, so that there's no fraud, there's no corruption, and the system works. I think the biggest problem we have here is the way these social parameters are being applied. We are dealing with a financial question, but we are applying social parameters, not financial tools. I think that is the biggest problem in this model. And what I would recommend is, if you look at all these social parameters, they will not tell you what somebody's income is or financial status is. You need to approach this thing using financial tools, like you are a credit committee in a bank. And this information is there. And the application, I would suggest, are made when people are still in high school, so that the teachers and the students can work together and capture the historical data on how those students are being financed over the years and fitted into the matrix, whatever system you call it. If you have a bank credit system, every parent has a telephone number these days. You can go and get M-Pesa records of a family, and you will know their income. You can go to KRA. You can go to salary slips. There's enough financial tools that if we apply to this system, we will get to know who are in need and who are not in need. Because if we leave it blank and use social parameters like polygamy and all these other things I'm seeing here, we are opening a very good system to fraud and corruption, and to politicians like us who will want to encourage people to go and get loans without having the responsibility to pay for them. This system only works where there is honesty and where there is repayment and where there is no corruption. So the first thing you must do is to change the parameters. Don't focus on the social parameters as much. Use financial tools. Secondly, thirdly, I think for those students who have applied, and they should apply while they are still in high school, when they get the letter, that letter should serve as a guarantee for their admission, even before the funds are disbursed. Then we will solve a lot of these other problems you see us having here. But otherwise, Mr. Speaker, social parameters, open to manipulation, open to corruption, we will kill a good idea. Start using financial tools in making analysis of who is in need. People will not go to the wrong banks if you act as a credit committee of a bank. And the information is there. Let nobody tell you there's no information. There's enough information. How much did you farm last time? How much crops did you harvest? It is there because people are receiving fertilizer. People are receiving different things. Otherwise, these social parameters will not help us. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
McLap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All of them, you'll answer them together.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be very brief and candid. Number one, Mr. Speaker, using this write-up that they have used bans on monthly income of families to determine what a family or a student should pay. When you turn to the other page, Mr. Speaker, they are saying there is a mini testing tool, and they have come up with parents, gender, cost, expenditure. Mr. Speaker, there is no collinearity between these social factors that do not have an assigned figure mathematically and the incomes of the families. Mr. Speaker, the incomes of the families are determined by salaried people. Salaried people. To determine these bands are determined by salaried people. But those who are not salaried, Mr. Speaker, are actually unique. It's unpredictable. So they are using an imagined constant as opposed to continuous variables that continue to affect income of families. So I will challenge that, Mr. Speaker. Two, and propose this, Mr. Speaker, and going to the last. I propose to the team that this thinking of funding of university is good, but requires refinery. Mr. Speaker, if you do 5% on cost over cost in university and allow the students pay the fees on 5% of the cost that they do, as opposed to these funds, then you will have a graduated, evenly funding, Mr. Speaker, that do not discriminate and based on what you earn, Mr. Speaker. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, is the parties, Mr. Speaker, the resolutions that we want to come to this house, because you have invited us to come to this house, not in vain, but to sort out a problem in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, resolution number 1 that you've said to come out very clearly this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, because the students are being admitted daily, is number 1. The students do report to university, and the university sort out the accommodation and the appeals and the applications when they are in the university unconditionally. Second, Mr. Speaker, that a degree, as you say, Mr. Speaker, of all certificates health, I am lucky because in the schools that I have called to release certificates, because I am aware, Mr. Speaker, of a circular from the Ministry of Education saying that all secondary schools to release certificates, and they are not doing it because of this communication. So, Mr. Speaker, that should communicate it throughout the Republic of Kenya. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the parties, the presidential party to funding of university education. So, Speaker, can we review this so that you include the members of this House, because this is where the rubber meets with the road. We know what is happening in Kenya. We don't want people to make decisions who are living in utopia. We are the people who meet with the customer daily basis, Mr. Speaker, and we have the best solution for education in Kenya, Mr. Speaker. I beg to raise my case, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Aldai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have really raised my hand because I really wanted to bring out this point.
You have now
thank you, Mr. Speaker. This means testing instrument, I think, is now the biggest elephant in this room. It is bigger than everything else because the methodology or all these parameters they've set up are what is actually causing students to be placed in bands that they do not belong. I will take a student from the Nandi escarpment, where I come from, the lower hills of the escarpment, who has been called to Nairobi University. He has filled this form because when he tried filling, he came to a cyber near, maybe far away from his home, tried filling this despite the difficulties, filled this information, told you, and this information, they come and check on whether you are marginalized. That particular kid is marginalized, but because our data here in Nairobi does not show that this kid who is living in an escarpment is marginalized, he will get a 0 or whatever rating that he'll get there, yet that kid for real is marginalized. You come to a child, maybe has both parents, but because the system says when you have both parents, maybe your rating goes down. When you have one parent, the rating goes up. There are even families where one parent or an orphan who were given inheritances that are better than situations where both parents exist. So if you look at the whole MTI tool that is being used, that is where the elephant in this room is. And therefore, and when you tell these students, come back for a review of your rating, they will still use the same tool to review the same student. So at the end of the day, it is a zero-sum game because this student will go to Nairobi University, comes from Aldai, go to Nairobi University.
University of Nairobi?
University of Nairobi, okay.
Yeah.
The University of Nairobi.
Yes. The University
University of Nairobi. And they are told, come back and review. The person seated at that desk reviewing does not understand the difficulties this child is coming from. And he's told, okay, so what do we want us to change here? The child changes 1, 2 things. They review the child from band 5 to band 4. Yet that child actually needs to be in band 1 because of the situation in which they are in. So my issue, Mr. Speaker, is that this particular banding and this particular review is the major elephant in the room, which is something that needs to be relooked at. And I would like the suggestion that reviews of these students be done right at the location, at the village level, because we have not reached this level. We've not reached this level as a country to be able to band and review students like this, because even us as human beings, we don't give the correct data. And finally, Mr. Speaker, we have so many budgets all over, like the political parties fund. It can also be used and be taken to universities so that universities can get more funding for students to upgrade the facilities and all those kind of things. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's have them answer that. Yes, what's your point of order, Wakili?
Mr. Speaker, I think from what I've listened to all the members, I think we have reached a level whereby, Mr. Speaker, we have started repeating ourselves. I think, Mr. Speaker, it's high time you give directions. No, I'm not spoken. It's a high time, Mr. Speaker, you give directions. I think we have captured the elephant in the room, the MTI, the communication, the bundling together of the bursary. I think it's high time, Mr. Speaker, so at least again, we can be able to conclude. Kindly, Mr. Speaker, I request that you give directions. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I have a different point, please. I beg you.
Just hold your horses, Mama.
Thank you.
Honorable.
I didn't say ride your horses. Hold your horses.
Honorable
Yes,
Speaker.
Some of them are overlapping. Like the issue raised by Rindikiri and Maklap is almost the same. So can you answer them quickly?
Yes.
I do one last round, then we adjourn.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I would like to respond to the issue raised by Honorable Rindikiri. I did communicate with him and provide the information that he requested for. That information was very useful to other members of Parliament as well. Honorable Speaker, we at the State Department are trying very much to collaborate with other state agencies to communicate. With a humble budget of 600,000 a year for communication, as a State Department, we are really struggling and working with other agencies to help us reach out. Then there were issues on the means testing instrument, and I want to say that the means testing instrument worked quite well last year because we only had, 9,726 appeals. Sounds like there were many, but there were 10%. For every model, a 10% error can actually be accommodated. But of this 9,726, upon reviewing all the information, 5% were successfully processed, while the rest, we explained to them why they had to remain in those bands, and the students are continuing learning. However, the real issue is how do these parameters interact? Because they interact in a very complex mathematical model. And Honorable Speaker, if you would give us some 3 minutes, I would call Mr. Mbala to just explain briefly how the variables interact in the mathematical model. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mr. Speaker, honorable members. My name is William Mbala. I work with the Higher Education Loans Board. The various indicators that have been chosen to help us determine the level of need of students for purposes of assisting financially are chosen from the research that was done by KNBS, more specifically the Kenya Poverty Report 2020. And then these particular indicators, we go ahead and rank them using analytical process called AHP, whereby we are able to compare one parameter or indicator over another to determine which one has the highest of, or the most important to determine level of need. That process, or that formula which was invented in 1975 by one Professor Saati in the United States, is what we use to be able to give weights for each indicator. Pardon? Thank you.
Yes, go on.
I'm done, Honorable.
You are done, take your seat. PS.
Honorable Speaker, those are mathematical functions that he was to demonstrate, but I guess it is too complex, but if we...
This is not a classroom. Just
Yes.
answer the questions as they are asked.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Honorable Chair. So Monari will complete the 3 other questions.
Monari.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will answer the questions from Honorable Robert Kithinji from Gishugu on collaboration. This is quite a good idea. In fact, in the next funding cycle, we'll be able to collaborate with secondary schools and ensure that we work together for them to give us more information regarding these students. So we'll have a more accommodative model which can be able to get information from secondary schools.
Chair, Honorable Speaker, clarification.
Yes.
My question was, can't you make it easy this year, because this is now that we have these problems, for the students to report, then within a week, we can be able, if you calculate this information to the constituency, we will be able to give you the correct info. We can call all the students that come from our constituencies. We parade them. Yeah, all the needed students, because not everyone will come out. We'll just call for every person who wants funding from the university.
You made your point, yes, Monari? Yeah. He's repeating what it said earlier, yes, which he thinks you are avoiding.
Yeah. No, we are going to accept all the information. The students can be able to upload that information when they are doing their appeals. So your suggestion is highly accepted, and we shall be able to
you remember, Chair, even the time of appeal that was asked by Honorable Undo has not even been given. So, or 3 weeks.
Yes. Member for Kishugu.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
He said earlier, probably because you had stepped out, because I saw you here very early, that they have set up desks at every university. That on arrival, and this is what used to happen even those long time ago when we were going to university, you would go there and change your faculty. You could go there and address difficult issues that you are facing. So he says they have set those desks. So your duty now is to tell students from your jurisdiction that if you have any challenges, when you get to your university, go straight to the desk where you can give information that can alter whatever you want to be adjusted if you gave it in error. Monari, isn't that correct?
Yes,
that's what you said?
Yes. That is correct, Honorable Speaker.
Maybe you give a chance to all those who have not spoken, then you'll give direction, Mr. Speaker.
I am going to do that.
Instead of them answering, allow them to ventilate and then you'll give direction.
Thank you, sir. I'll call the following so that we don't leave out anybody. Wamshomba.
But, Mr. Speaker, my question was not partly answered.
It will be answered. Just hold your horses. Okay, PS.
I asked for tabulation
She
of
said
data.
she has been meeting you in her office.
No. I've been calling her, and what I said is the information they have put here is wrong. It's not correct. And I also asked that you they give us tabulation of data per category.
PS.
That was entered into determining, because garbage in and garbage out.
You know, Orindikiri, this is self-generated data, isn't it?
Mr. Speaker, if we get that data,
yes.
If we get that data,
you want to get it to compare with what you
yes,
have.
with what we have in the ground.
That's
because
public information.
75% of students in Meru County, they are all falling between bad 5, 4, and 5. The entire Meru County.
Like Ikilifi.
Yeah.
Go on.
Something is wrong.
PS.
Honorable Speaker, I would, with your permission, I will demonstrate how we are dealing with some of these issues because they are real. I have a student whose data was shared by one of the members of parliament here, and we downloaded because they had not been properly categorized. And when we downloaded the data that the student had provided, the honorable member said it was not true and then gave additional information saying this person has 9 siblings, 1 brother is at Great Lakes University, 2 brothers completed Form 4 are idling, a sister is due to join Rift Valley, has a sibling in Form 4 likely to get an A, has another sibling in Form 2, 2 in primary. One hasn't started schooling, I've spoken to him and it is a sad story. And he used a cyber guy to complete the data. He wouldn't allow him to check the authenticity. I'm just wondering how many other kids have suffered in the hands of the cyber people. I will set up a constituency help desk, at least 1 per ward. So what I'm saying, Honorable Speaker, is that the issues that we have shared are real and we are addressing them.
Thank you. Wamchomba, followed by Karemba, followed by Kadambi, followed by Jared Okello, followed by Lillian Kogo, Mayaka, Kihara, then Kipchumba.
Mr. Speaker, sir, point of order, please. Because Kajiado County has not been had any member. And we come from marginalized places, please.
Take your seat.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And those members have called out, please take a minute each. We have overshot our time by more than an hour.
Many other times, Mr. Speaker, we have called parents and students for bursary screening in our constituencies. And more specifically, I speak for Githunguri. And every time you call students to provide information, some of them are so shy to tell you that they have drunkard parents. They are very shy to admit that their home is poor. They are very shy to actually tell you information that they claim it is in their personal space. So in our attempt to screen students and categorize them in the means testing instrument that has been used here, I think we have just got it wrong. Screening students who have not accepted that they come from poor backgrounds and insisting from them to get information, we are not going to get the actual information. I have had incidences where you call those students even into the offices to come and get to understand them more, and they even refuse to attend, only for their mothers to show up later to complain that their students were omitted because the student did not own up to information. So I'm appealing to the PS, please, kindly review the means testing instrument. And I would request and beseech of you, please benchmark from the best. We have had private organizations that have been providing bursaries in our backyard. For example, we have the Wings to Fly program. These people go home to home, not because they did not have access to the student, but they realize that the student may not give you the actual information that can be used to actually engage the needy cases of the students. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for having called this Kamukunji, because we realize that we are suffering from lack of information. And from the engagement in this room, we actually can confirm there is a very serious information gap. And if that gap is not going to be sorted in the shortest way possible and days possible, we might land into a confusion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Karemba. Just press and it comes on. Thank you. Thank you. Go to the next.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Now, the new funding model, Honorable Speaker, I am thinking was supposed to address the crisis of the university funding. And I would like to hear from Madam PS whether indeed she believes that the new funding model is going to sort out the funding crisis in the universities. Then finally, Honorable Speaker, I heard a pronouncement by the President on this issue, if I am not wrong, on the issue of the communication that was done by various universities. Because among the letters that I have seen, even those from my constituency, have very scaring figures of about 300,000, 200,000. Have the universities considered the issue of reissuing admission
It was in
letters?
public media that they withdrew that communication, I think.
Have they reissued the letters?
Chancellor, is that correct? Give him the mic. You know you have to go on record. When you whisper to me that it's sure, it doesn't help the House.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, yes, we did indicate that the fees or the letters that we had issued earlier on, we know the costs therein, and we promised that as from 5th of August, we will be issuing other letters showing household costs. And those letters
How soon are you issuing those letters?
We have already released them, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, yes, say so.
They are there, they are already circulating, and so the households know what they are paying, and everything else is silent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I am, and urge that they employ the technology so as to ensure that the letters get to the students as fast as possible.
And you see, Professor, the problem we have is still communication. When His Excellency the President directed that you withdraw the letter, the public got to know. When you withdrew and issued the next letter, the public never got to know. And that's what we should improve, Madam PS. Karemba, you are done. Kadambi, 1 minute. You have been agitated the whole afternoon.
And I'm expecting your, Mr. Speaker, sir, you had me a minute. Mr. Speaker, allow me just to comment first. With explanations through the PS, I find that, Mr. Speaker, they are lacking a lot of information. It might be a very good idea, but how to implement it, how to sustain it, it has a lot of questions. Mr. Speaker, sir, there is burden when identifying the poor children, because I'm a single constituency member of Parliament, Joro, and sometimes we do even locational committee so that we can look for these poor people. Madam PS, I'm interested to understand, do you expect or does your team have a clue that there's a probability for a person qualifying to be band 5, that person can qualify to be band 1? Do you expect that? Mr. Speaker, do they have a room probably for the manual transactions? And I'm asking this question considering that we have so many constituencies, including mine, which is not 100% connected with the matters of electricity. Mr. Speaker, sir, and on that point, let us also remember we have poor children, poor families, who even cannot afford a plate of food. Therefore, even the matters of telephones, smartphones, the computers, the issues of internet, it is still a challenge. Do we have a room for the manual transactions? And lastly, Mr. Speaker, please, Mr. Speaker, 1 minute. I find it when they give grace period of 1 year, it is not reasonable. Why, Mr. Speaker? In this country, we have brothers and sisters, and even some poor children we have taken to schools with the CDF, who even have finished universities. Even for the last 2 to 3 years, they have not gotten jobs. Therefore, the period grace for 1 year, it is not appropriate,
For 1
Mr.
year
Speaker.
to do what?
I am advising the ministry, Mr. Speaker, sir, to just go and do adjustment, at least to add it from 1 year to probably 2 to 3 years, so that the people shall have finished the universities. They have not gotten jobs. And this, Mr. Speaker, I'm talking through the experience and what is there today in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Okello, avoid the temptation to make a speech. Just ask a question.
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and I also thank you for convening this Kamukunji, which is quite insightful. Honorable Speaker, I've got 2 notable concerns. Number 1 is that even in organizations that aspire to come up with new systems, there's always a test run that is carried out. And there you determine the efficacy levels, but most importantly, it helps you know which direction the whole organization, together the new system, is heading to. Now, all these problems are coming as a result of confusions. From the ministry itself, we have seen cases where they have issued letters, recall letters, issue new letters. So even to them, they are not sure whether this is a system that is going to withstand the test of time, Honorable Speaker. And how I wish, therefore, that instead of killing the past, or rather the traditional system that we have been accustomed to, that they did it in phases, so that we also know exactly what our students will be.
She said they're running purposes.
Yeah, but they have killed the previous one, Honorable Speaker. Now, Honorable Speaker, one thing that must not escape our attention is that for the longest, students have been paying between 22,000 to 53,000 shillings. Now, with a new funding model, the fees escalated to over 400,000 shillings, but it is clothed in some many funding under it, so that people think that they are only paying that deficit, which is between 20,000 to about 53,000, again, Honorable Speaker. But all these are loans. So what the students must brace for, Honorable Speaker, is that upon graduation, they have huge loans to service. I'm afraid some of them may not even get jobs, but even if you are so fortunate to do, prepare yourself to pay back these monies to the government that will be running into 2 million, 3 million, and even more, Honorable Speaker, depending on the cost. So how I wish, therefore, Honorable Speaker, that we just adopted the previous payment model together with the accompanying fees that do not necessarily attract these 400,000 shillings that we now see in the fee structures, Honorable Speaker, that will then be transferred to parents and to the beneficiaries at the end of the day, Honorable Speaker.
To speak, that is the person that you always are. I will be very quick to make comments because most questions have been asked. But Honorable Speaker, allow me to be the devil's advocate here. I want to speak from the point of information. I was at the University of Nairobi yesterday, School of Law, at one of the lecture theaters where they were admitting law students. And Honorable Speaker, I am here to confirm and congratulate University of Nairobi because that's the only place where I went to verify the workability of this system at the ground level. And we had many students who had challenges with fees, application, and they were all gathered in one of the halls. I can report as a member of parliament for Rangwe constituency, Honorable Speaker, nobody was turned away because of school fees. As a matter of fact. So I saw that, and I want to thank the system, I want to thank the ministry, but you need to do better. Nobody was turned. I don't know what happened in other universities. I don't know what is going to happen in the ones who are going to be admitted later, but yesterday no student was turned away because of fees. Madam PS, what informs a basic earning of 5,000 and not 2,000 and not 3,000? Where did you get that information from? Number two, why not build hostels for our students, even from the affordable housing scheme? Why not build hostels instead of burdening our students with loan? And this is what depresses young people to the point of committing suicide. Number three, Honorable Speaker.
Three and last.
I am very fast and I've waited, Honorable Speaker, and I'm your friend.
Everybody else has.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mheshimiwa. Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. Another matter that is of concern to me, I am really, really worried. If a 1975 model of MTI can be used to get interactions of variables and make decisions, when we have better models, newer models like principal component analysis that can give you interactions of the various. Why did you go for 1975 model? Finally, Honorable Speaker, I want to say this. We do not need as a country, the respect that Kenya gets outside here is more than what is more than its measure. We do not need to move from one mathematical model to another one, exchanging models after models after models and depressing parents. What we need to fix education of this country is free education. That is all we require. We do not want to know how you have gone to school and you come up with this model. We are not, mathematics is not for fixing poverty. We want actualization of issues, qua ground. That is all we want. We do not want, Honorable Speaker, nikamaliza kabisa, I will not talk again. We do not want to depress young people with burden of loans when they start working. Let them go, look for jobs that we should also provide as a country so that we make Kenya a better place to live in. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Mayaka, 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Don't
Finally.
emulate your neighbor. Take 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'll be very brief. Honorable Speaker, I was just looking at the task force report, that was shared together with this document. And one of the things that is very apparent is that, number one, there was no pilot done for this system for you to be able to determine the criteria that you're using, because you cannot use a social criteria methodology on informal income earning Kenyans and people in the agricultural sector. That doesn't make sense. Number two, Honorable Speaker, we have a report here that has recommendations and mitigations without any timelines. It just says what doesn't work, but doesn't say when it can be made to work. Number three, Honorable Speaker, when you're using a 1975 model, it's akin to